Hey, good morning. My name's Kenny Wheeler. I'm a special needs inclusion and leadership consultant. I do work across England in supporting schools. I've been asked by Chris Barnes from the Down Syndrome International Organisation just to record a piece on inclusion, why it's imperative to have support at a senior level and what can be done to make sure that our strategic intent is implemented in the classroom. So just kind of starting, I guess part of the exploration is at strategic level. How do we communicate our intent and what are our espoused values? In so many schools, if you were to ask them if they were inclusive, they would say that absolutely. But actually saying that we're inclusive and being inclusive, do they match up? So what are our espoused values? When we have an open evening and we have our prospective parents coming, and then them being curious as to what the school's like and what experience their children are going to have when they join the school. And what does the head teacher and staff around the school, what do they say on those occasions? And then we've got those espoused values, but then on a day-to-day basis, what is the reality? So we might say we're inclusive, but what are the conversations that go on? What are the practices? And what can we do to make sure that the lived experiences of our learners are positive ones? So is there a connect between what we say we do and the reality, or is there a disconnect? But do we embrace our moral commitment in settings? So in kind of looking at the strategic intent and how that then manifests in the classroom, part of it could be when we talk about a behavior incident or an issue, do we talk about the antecedents, what went on before, the behavior and the consequences? So as a leadership group, do we talk about the whole picture, or do we just focus on the behavior and the consequences? So are we exploring everything, or are we just kind of jumping into to react to a situation? Equally, in terms of classroom practice, great inclusive teaching is a continuum. So whilst we've got our strategic intent in terms of becoming inclusive, what we're doing on a kind of a yearly basis, a monthly basis, termly basis, weekly basis, and daily basis, in order to make sure that we can develop practice over time. What conversations do we have with our staff so that we can explore what's going on in the classroom and thinking about, these were the plans that we had, this is our strategy for the year, these are our targets that we're hoping to work towards, but what's that looking like at a classroom level? And what can we do as senior leaders in order to support classroom practitioners, teachers, teaching assistants, and staff within our school to make sure that they kind of reflect on what's going on and improve practices over time? And I think part of that also is that just making sure that we reinforce the same message and we're curious as to what's going on as opposed to being judgmental. There are going to be occasions where lessons don't necessarily go to plan, but when children make mistakes, we kind of have the cliche, we learn best from making mistakes. But if we have mistakes in the classroom as a teacher, are we encouraging that same reflection? Because some of our practices aren't going to be refined the first time. So what are we doing to support that ongoing development of inclusive practice so that when we do meet learners in our classroom with more complex needs, instead of saying we can't meet their needs, what we're saying is this is going to be a journey, we're going to get some things right, but we might make mistakes, but we're going to learn from those mistakes so that over time we've got more inclusive practices and we're including, supporting and meeting the needs of learners with more complex difficulties. So I guess partly what I'm saying there is the strategic intent needs the support of the senior leaders. We need there to be that kind of consistent voice without judgment, but just kind of looking at what we constantly doing to support the development of inclusive practices in our setting. When we have staff meetings, is it just about data, Or are we exploring pedagogy and practice, that we might have great teachers who've got a secure grasp on their content knowledge, but how are we putting that across? How are we using our pedagogy to do that? So that pedagogical content knowledge, so that pupils not only get the subject knowledge, but get it in a way that they can understand it, they can access it, and they can use it. So that's it for me. I'm not going to continue too far on this video, but it was just really looking at that the messages that senior leaders give and how they're contagious, the tone that they use and the tone that they adopt will affect the culture within the setting in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So part of it really is that if we say that we're inclusive, are our actions matching our words, and what we're doing to reinforce that on a day-to-day basis, knowing that it's a continuum and it's a journey where we're going to learn and evolve and get better over time.